My mother gave my entire college fund to my sister, so she could have a bigger wedding with more guests. She expected me to just be happy for her and move on. I wasn't. Now she needs a favor from me, and I keep forgetting to call her back. Hey Reddit! So this is the story of how my mother gave away my entire college fund, so my sister could have a Pinterest-perfect wedding with 250 guests she barely knew, and how karma eventually came back around when she needed something from me. Buckle up, because this one's a wild ride through family favoritism and the long game of petty revenge. I'm 28 now, but this whole mess started when I was 18, and my sister Ashley was 22. For context, Ashley has always been the golden child in our family. Not in the subtle way where parents try to hide it. No, this was the full spotlight, red carpet, standing ovation treatment since we were kids. She was the firstborn, the daughter my mom always wanted, and apparently that meant she could do no wrong while I was basically an afterthought with a pulse. Growing up, every achievement of mine got a golf clap while Ashley got a full parade. I made honor roll every semester through high school while working weekends at a pharmacy to save money. My reward was a "that's nice, honey," and maybe a pat on the head. Ashley barely passed her classes, and my mom threw her a graduation party that cost more than my used car. The favoritism was so obvious that even our neighbors noticed it. Mrs. Patterson next door once asked me if I was adopted because she never saw my parents at any of my school events. Nope, just the spare kid, Mrs. P. My parents had set up college funds for both of us when we were born. My grandpa on my dad's side had insisted on it before he died, actually put it in his will that a portion of his estate had to go into education funds for his grandkids. Smart man, my grandpa. He knew my mom's spending habits could fund a small country's GDP if left unchecked. By the time I graduated high school, my fund had grown to about $85,000. Not enough to cover everything at a big university, but enough to handle a state school with maybe some part-time work on the side. I had my whole plan mapped out. State university for a degree in accounting, graduate in 4 years, get my CPA, and start building an actual career. Nothing fancy, just a solid plan for a solid future. Ashley's fund was roughly the same amount. She'd gone to a local community college for 2 years, living at home, and then transferred to a state school where she'd graduated with a degree in communications. She'd used about half her fund since living at home saved money. The rest was just sitting there, earning interest, supposedly being saved for grad school or a house down payment or something responsible. Then she met Brandon. Brandon was about as interesting as dry toast, but he had a decent job as a manager at a bank and came from a family with money. Not rich, but comfortable enough that they belonged to a country club and took annual trips to Europe. Ashley saw dollar signs and a lifestyle upgrade, and suddenly she was madly in love with this human equivalent of beige paint. They dated for like 8 months before Brandon proposed. My mom lost her mind with excitement. She started planning the wedding before Ashley even got the ring resized. We're talking Pinterest boards, vendor meetings, venue tours, the whole production. My mom treated it like she was planning a royal wedding instead of watching her daughter marry a guy whose most interesting quality was his golf handicap. The wedding planning took over our entire house. There were fabric swatches on every surface, 3 different wedding magazines in every bathroom, and my mom on the phone with vendors at all hours. She'd somehow appointed herself as the unofficial wedding coordinator, and Ashley was more than happy to let her run wild with ideas. I was finishing up my senior year of high school during all this, trying to finalize my college plans and figure out financial aid. I had applied to 3 state schools and gotten into all of them. My top choice had a great accounting program and was only 2 hours away from home. I'd visited campus twice, met with the financial aid office, and had my whole 4-year plan sketched out. One night in March, my mom asked me to come into the living room for a family discussion. In my family, those words have never preceded good news. It's like when your boss says, "We need to talk," or when your girlfriend says, "We should talk about us." Nothing good follows that phrase. I walked into the living room to find my mom and Ashley sitting on the couch with serious faces. My dad wasn't there, which should have been my first red flag. My dad had this magical ability to disappear whenever uncomfortable family discussions were about to happen. Man could sense tension from 3 rooms away and would suddenly remember he needed to clean the garage or check the oil in his car. My mom started with the classic, "You know we love you both equally" opener, which is what parents say right before proving they definitely don't love you equally. She went on about how weddings are important life milestones and how she wanted to make sure Ashley had the wedding of her dreams. Then she dropped the bomb. Ashley wanted to upgrade her wedding. Instead of the 100-person ceremony they'd originally planned, she wanted 250 guests at a luxury venue with a full dinner reception, open bar, live band, and every expensive detail you could imagine. The original budget was around $30,000. The new dream wedding? Try $95,000. I sat there doing the math in my head, already knowing where this was going, but hoping I was wrong. Brandon's parents were contributing $25,000. My parents had saved about $15,000 for wedding expenses. That left a pretty significant gap. My mom then said the words that I will remember for the rest of my life. "We've decided to use your college fund to cover the rest of the wedding costs. Ashley's education fund will be used too, but since she's already graduated, we thought it made sense to invest in her future this way instead." I just stared at her. "You're taking my college fund? All of it?" "Not all of it," my mom said quickly. Like that made it better. We'll leave you about $5,000 for your first semester expenses. And you can get loans for the rest. Lots of students take out loans. It's very normal. Ashley jumped in with her sweetest voice, the one she uses when she wants something. It's just so important to start a marriage off right, you know? Brandon's family is inviting so many important people, and we really want to make a good impression. Plus, you're smart and young. You'll be able to pay off loans easy with your salary after you graduate. I looked at my mom. Did you talk to Dad about this? Your father agrees it's the best decision for the family, she said, which was mom code for, I told your father this is happening, and he nodded while watching TV. The best decision for the family. Not for me, the person whose money it actually was. For the family, which apparently meant Ashley's social status and my mom's ability to brag about throwing an expensive wedding. I asked if Ashley was contributing her own money to this. She had a job, had been working for almost a year since graduating. My mom got defensive immediately. Ashley has expenses, she said. She's saving for her future with Brandon. They'll need money for a house, for furniture, for starting their life together. It wouldn't be fair to expect her to empty her savings for one day. But expecting me to give up my entire college fund? Totally fair. Got it. I tried to argue. I pulled out all my college planning documents, showed them the financial aid packages, explained how much I'd have to borrow if they took my fund. With the fund, I'd graduate with maybe $20,000 in loans, which was manageable. Without it, I was looking at over $80,000 in debt before interest. My mom waved it all away. You'll get scholarships. You're a good student. Apply for more scholarships and work-study programs. Ashley didn't have any of those advantages. Ashley didn't have those advantages because she barely maintained a C average and never tried to get scholarships, but pointing that out would have been unsupportive. The conversation went in circles for an hour. Every argument I made was met with guilt trips about being selfish, about not wanting my sister to be happy, about how family supports each other. My mom even cried at one point, saying she never thought I'd be so cruel as to deny my sister her dream wedding. That's when I realized I'd already lost. The decision had been made before they even told me. This wasn't a discussion, it was an announcement with the pretense of asking my opinion. They'd probably already transferred the money or promised it to vendors. I was just expected to smile and go along with it. I stood up and left without another word. Went to my room and closed the door. I could hear my mom telling Ashley I'd come around, that I was just being dramatic and would understand eventually. The next day I checked my bank account where I kept the small amount of money I'd saved from my pharmacy job, about $3,000 over 2 years of weekend work. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I opened a new account at a different bank and transferred every penny. I had this paranoid feeling that if I left it accessible, somehow it would also get borrowed for wedding expenses. I spent the next 2 weeks researching every scholarship, grant, and financial aid option available. I filled out applications until my fingers cramped. I met with a financial aid counselor at my future college 3 times, explaining my situation. They were sympathetic but realistic. I was looking at significant loans. My mom tried to do the whole, "See, I told you it would work out" routine when I got a few small scholarships. She seemed genuinely confused about why I was still upset. In her mind, she'd solved the problem by leaving me $5,000, and I'd figured out the rest. So what was I complaining about? Ashley's wedding planning kicked into high gear. Every single day was about centerpieces, dress fittings, menu tastings, and invitation designs. My mom was in heaven, living vicariously through Ashley's big day. They went to bridal shows together, had mother-daughter spa days, and spent hours on the phone with a wedding coordinator. I worked extra shifts at the pharmacy, saving every dollar I could for upcoming school expenses. When I wasn't working, I was in my room studying or researching ways to minimize my costs. I'd decided to take a full course load every semester, including summers, so I could graduate in 3 years instead of 4. It would be brutal, but it would save me a year of living expenses and tuition. Nobody seemed to notice how much time I was spending in my room, or how quiet I'd become. They were too wrapped up in wedding world. The only time I was expected to participate was when they needed my opinion on something meaningless, like whether the napkins should be ivory or cream. Like I gave a single damn about napkin colors when my financial future had just been torched for those napkins. The one conversation that really stuck with me happened about a month before the wedding. I was in the kitchen making a sandwich when Ashley came in, all excited about some overpriced wedding favor she'd found. She started showing me pictures on her phone, going on about how cute they were and how her guests would love them. Then she looked at me and said, "You know I really appreciate this, right? The sacrifice you're making for me?" I just looked at her. "Sacrifice I'm making? You mean the college fund that was mine that got taken away?" She had the audacity to look hurt. "I mean, yeah, but you understand why it's important, right? This wedding is going to set the tone for our entire marriage. Brandon's family has expectations. If we had some small, cheap wedding, what would that say about us?" "It would say you live within your means like normal people," I replied. She actually rolled her eyes. "You're so dramatic. It's just money. You'll make more money. But I only get one wedding day." That was the moment I realized Ashley genuinely didn't understand what she'd taken from me. To her, it was just money that would somehow be replaced. She couldn't grasp that every dollar I'd now have to borrow would cost me years of repayment, that the $85,000 they took would cost me probably $120,000 by the time I paid off the loans with interest. But her napkins and party favors? Critical investment in her future. I stopped engaging with wedding talk after that. When my mom would ask me to participate in planning or give opinions, I'd make myself scarce. This led to more guilt trips about being unsupportive and selfish, but I was past caring. They'd made their choice, I'd made mine. The month before the wedding, my acceptance package arrived from the university. Looking at those papers, doing the math on loans and expenses, the reality hit me hard. I was starting my adult life $80,000 in the hole, so my sister could have monogrammed cocktail napkins and an ice sculpture that looked like swans. The wedding itself was exactly as ridiculous as you'd expect. The venue was this massive estate with gardens and fountains. There were flowers everywhere, probably thousands of dollars worth of arrangements that would be dead in 3 days. The ceremony had a string quartet. The reception had a 12-piece band, a photo booth with props, a candy bar, a full dinner with 3 entree choices, and an open bar with top-shelf everything. I counted roughly 240 people there. I knew maybe 30 of them. The rest were Brandon's family's friends, his parents' business associates, people from their country club, and Ashley's college acquaintances who she hadn't spoken to in years but invited for the numbers. My mom spent the entire night bragging to anyone who would listen about how she'd pulled off such an elegant wedding, how much thought went into every detail, how Ashley deserved only the best. I watched her gush to strangers about the imported Italian linens on the tables, while I calculated how many student loan payments those linens represented. The couple's first dance was to some song by an artist they'd hired specifically for the wedding. $12,000 for a live performance of their first dance song. That was roughly 1 semester's tuition for me, spent on 3.5 minutes of music. I left early, claiming I had to work the next morning, which was actually true. While my sister and her new husband danced the night away at their 6-figure party, I went home and finalized my financial aid paperwork. College started 3 months later. I moved into the cheapest dorm option, got a work-study job in the library, and kept my weekend shifts at the pharmacy back home. My schedule was relentless. Classes, studying, work, repeat. While other freshmen were joining clubs and going to parties, I was working and studying to keep my grades high enough to maintain my academic scholarships. The first semester nearly broke me. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. for an opening shift at the library, work until my 9 a.m. class, then go straight from class to class until 3 p.m. Then I'd study in the library until my evening shift started at 5. Work until 9, grab something cheap to eat, study until midnight, sleep, repeat. Friday nights I'd drive home and work 12-hour weekend shifts at the pharmacy, then drive back Sunday evening to do it all over again. I watched my roommate and the other kids on my floor live what looked like actual college experiences. Late-night pizza runs, impromptu hangouts, joining intramural sports teams. I couldn't afford the time or money for any of it. One week all I ate was peanut butter sandwiches because I'd had an unexpected textbook expense and it wiped out my food budget. My mom would call occasionally, asking how school was going. She never asked about my finances or if I needed help. She'd talk about Ashley and Brandon settling into married life, their new furniture, their trip to Mexico. Meanwhile, I was eating ramen and sleeping 4 hours a night. The first time I couldn't come home for a weekend because of work. My mom got upset. "We barely see you anymore," she complained. Family is important. I wanted to say that family was apparently important, except when it came to funding my education, but I kept quiet. What was the point? The money was spent, the wedding was over, and I was on my own now. Spring break freshman year, I stayed on campus and worked double shifts while everyone else went home or on trips. The dorms were practically empty. Ashley posted pictures from her vacation to the Bahamas with Brandon. My mom commented on every photo about how beautiful everything looked. By sophomore year, I'd proven to myself I could handle the workload. I was maintaining a 3.7 GPA while working 25 hours a week and taking summer classes. I'd figured out every possible way to cut costs. Buying used textbooks, meal prepping cheap staples, walking instead of taking the campus shuttle to save the few dollars in transportation fees. Summer after sophomore year, I stayed on campus and took a full load of classes while working full-time at the pharmacy. I lived in the absolute cheapest summer housing option, which was basically a concrete cell block that felt like living in a prison, but it was $800 cheaper per month than the regular dorms. No air conditioning during a brutal summer, shared bathrooms that never got properly cleaned, and my neighbors were summer athletes who partied every night. But it saved money. I'd go to class in the morning, work the afternoon shift, come back and study in the one air-conditioned common area until it closed at 10, then go back to my sauna of a room and try to sleep with a box fan pointed at my face. I lost probably 15 pounds that summer just from sweating and not being able to afford enough food to make up the calories. Meanwhile, Ashley posted pictures from their second anniversary trip to Italy. My mom commented, "So proud of you both," with about 20 heart emojis. Nobody asked how my summer was going or seemed to notice I hadn't been home in months. My mom still didn't seem to notice or care about the grind I was living. She'd call to tell me about Ashley's latest home decorating project or their anniversary dinner at some fancy restaurant. Never once did she ask if I needed anything or offer to help with books or groceries. The golden child was thriving in her subsidized life, and that was all that mattered. I did the math once during a particularly rough week junior year. The wedding had cost approximately $95,000 total. The flowers alone were $8,000. That was enough to cover an entire semester of my tuition, fees, and housing. The photographer was $4,500 for someone who took pictures that now sat in a wedding album nobody looked at anymore. That could have bought all my textbooks for my entire degree with money left over. The video package was $3,200 for a video I'm pretty sure nobody has watched since the week after the wedding. The ice sculpture they absolutely had to have cost $600. The party favors nobody wanted or kept cost nearly $1,000. Every dollar of that wedding I could convert into something practical in my life. The centerpieces cost more than my monthly food budget. The wedding cake cost more than my car insurance for 6 months. The live band cost more than my rent for 3 months. But Ashley only got one wedding day. Meanwhile, I got 4 years of exhaustion, stress, and wondering if I'd make it to graduation before burning out completely. Junior year, something shifted. I stopped being bitter about the situation and started seeing it as fuel. Every exhausting day, every stressful exam, every moment I wanted to quit, I'd think about that wedding and it would push me forward. My success wasn't going to be handed to me like Ashley's was. I was going to earn it and it would mean something. I graduated in 3 years like I'd planned, with my accounting degree and a 3.8 GPA. I took the CPA exam 2 months after graduating and passed all 4 sections on the first try, which only about 60% of people do. I had 3 job offers before I even had my final grades. My mom came to my graduation, took a few photos, and left early because Ashley needed help with something at her house. No party, no celebration dinner, no recognition that I'd just pulled off something genuinely difficult while working my way through school. Just a proud of you honey text later that night. I took a job at a mid-sized accounting firm with a good starting salary. Not huge money, but solid for a new graduate. More importantly, they offered student loan repayment assistance as part of their benefits package. It wasn't going to make my loans disappear overnight, but every bit helped. I got a small apartment, nothing fancy but mine. I bought basic furniture from thrift stores and kept my expenses minimal. Every extra dollar went toward my loans. My goal was to have them paid off in 10 years instead of the standard 20. It was an aggressive plan, but I was used to aggressive plans by then. I lived like I was still in college for the first 2 years after graduating. Same cheap meals, same strict budget, same no extras lifestyle. While my coworkers went out for happy hours and weekend trips, I stayed home and made extra loan payments. They thought I was boring or antisocial. I didn't bother explaining that every happy hour cost what I paid monthly on my highest interest loan. My first year working, I paid off $12,000 in loans. Year 2, $13,000. I got promoted to senior associate with a raise that went straight to the loans. Year 3, $15,000. The interest was finally going down enough that more of my payments were hitting principal instead of just covering accumulation. I tracked every payment in a spreadsheet, watched the balance decrease month by month. Each payment felt like reclaiming a small piece of my life that had been stolen for flowers and food that got eaten and forgotten within hours. Meanwhile, Ashley and Brandon were living their best life. They'd bought a house in a nice neighborhood with granite countertops, a finished basement, a 2-car garage. They had real furniture, not thrift shop finds. They took trips to wine country and posted pictures of fancy dinners where an appetizer cost more than I spent on groceries for a week. My mom would send me the pictures, making comments about how well Ashley was doing. Never mind that Ashley's house and lifestyle were funded by family money from multiple sources, including my college fund. For the first few years after graduation, I kept my distance from family stuff. I'd show up for major holidays, stay a few hours, and leave. My mom would make comments about me being distant or too busy for family, but I never took the bait. I was polite, I was present, and then I was gone. The thing about holding a boundary is that people who are used to you rolling over will test it constantly. My mom would call asking me to help Ashley move furniture or to dog sit while they were on vacation. I had convenient work conflicts every time. She'd guilt trip me about being selfish and not making time for family. I'd agree that yes, I was very busy with work and couldn't help. Then year 5 hit. I'd been working steady, living cheap, and aggressively paying down my loans. I'd knocked out about $45,000 of the principal. I was on track to be debt-free in another 5 years, right on schedule with my plan. That's when my mom called with an interesting update. Ashley and Brandon were getting divorced. Apparently, the fairy tale marriage that required a 6-figure wedding had lasted exactly 4 years and some months. The details were messy. Brandon had been having an affair with someone from his work. Ashley had been spending money faster than they could make it, and they were drowning in credit card debt. They'd bought the house and furniture and cars and took trips they couldn't afford, living off credit and expectations. The house was underwater on the mortgage. They had over $60,000 in credit card debt between various cards. The cars were financed at terrible rates. The fancy furniture was on payment plans they could barely keep up with. Turns out when you fund a lifestyle on credit instead of actual financial planning, things fall apart quick. The divorce was going to be ugly and expensive, and Ashley was moving back in with my parents. My mom sounded genuinely shocked, like she couldn't understand how this had happened. Her perfect daughter's perfect marriage had imploded. The irony wasn't lost on me that Ashley's wedding, the one that required sacrificing my education fund, had launched a marriage that didn't even make it to a 5th anniversary. All that money for a relationship that ended up being worth less than the cost of the centerpieces. My mom called me crying, saying Ashley needed family support during this difficult time. I said that was rough, and I hoped Ashley landed on her feet. Mom asked if I could help Ashley out with some money to get her own apartment. Just a small loan, maybe $2,000 to cover first and last month's rent somewhere. I said I couldn't do that. I had my own expenses to worry about. This was apparently the wrong answer, because my mom launched into a speech about how family helps family, how Ashley had been through so much. How could I be so cold during her time of need? I listened to the whole thing, waiting for the pause. Then I asked one question. Did Ashley ever pay back the college fund she used for her wedding? Silence on the other end. Then my mom tried to pivot, saying that was different. That was years ago, that I needed to let it go. You're right. It was years ago, I agreed. Years where I worked myself half to death to pay for an education that was supposed to be funded. So no, I can't loan Ashley money. I have student loans to pay off. You remember those, right? The ones I wouldn't have if my college fund hadn't been spent on ice sculptures and a live band. My mom said I was being petty and holding a grudge. I said I was being realistic about my finances. She said Ashley was family and needed help. I said Ashley had made her choices and I'd made mine, and now we were both living with the consequences. Then I ended the call. For about a year after that, my relationship with my mom was frosty. She'd still call, but the conversations were short and tense. She'd occasionally drop hints about how hard things were for Ashley, clearly fishing for me to offer help. I never bit. Ashley eventually got a small apartment and a job doing administrative work somewhere. The divorce finalized. Brandon got to keep most of his retirement accounts since they'd only been married a few years, and they sold the house at a loss. Ashley's share after the mortgage and debts were paid was essentially nothing. I kept my head down and kept working. Made senior accountant after 3 years at my firm. Got a raise, kept paying down loans. My life wasn't exciting, but it was stable, and it was mine. I built it myself without handouts or family money, and there was something satisfying about that. Then 6 months ago, my mom called with a different kind of request. This wasn't about Ashley or guilt trips about family obligations. This was about her. My dad had retired the year before. They'd been planning to do some traveling, enjoy their retirement years, all that standard stuff. Except it turned out my dad had made some questionable investment decisions over the years that nobody knew about. Some former colleague had pitched him on some business opportunity that turned out to be basically a scam. He'd invested a chunk of their retirement savings, something like $40,000, and lost almost all of it. They were in a tight spot financially, not homeless or anything dramatic, but tight enough that their comfortable retirement was looking a lot less comfortable. My mom was asking if I could help them out. She didn't specify an amount, but from the way she talked, I got the sense we were talking significant money. I told her I'd need to think about it and check my finances. She seemed relieved that I didn't immediately say no, probably thinking she'd finally broken through my selfishness. I did think about it for about 30 seconds. Then I went back to my life and didn't call her back. She called a few more times over the next couple weeks. I'd see her name on my caller ID and just let it go to voicemail. The messages started off casual, just checking in to see if you'd had time to think about helping out. Then they got more urgent. Really could use your help here. Getting worried about making ends meet. Then frustrated. Would appreciate a call back. This is important. I'd occasionally text back something vague like, super busy with work, will call when I have time, or got your message, still figuring out my budget. Never an actual commitment to call or to help, just enough response to show I wasn't dead. A month went by. 2 months. My mom started calling more frequently. The messages got longer and more detailed about their financial situation, how they might need to sell the house and downsize, how she was so stressed about money at a time in her life when she shouldn't have to be stressed, how she never thought her son would leave her hanging like this. Never once in any of these messages did she acknowledge the irony. Never once did she seem to connect the dots between leaving me to drown in student loan debt and me not jumping to rescue her from financial trouble. The best message came about 3 months into this whole thing. She called and left this long voicemail about how family is supposed to stick together, how she'd always been there for me growing up, how she'd sacrificed so much for me and Ashley, and how disappointing it was that I couldn't be bothered to help her in her time of need. I saved that voicemail. Sometimes when I'm having a bad day, I listen to it and remind myself that the capacity for selective memory and zero self-awareness is truly boundless. Ashley called me after that, which was rare. We barely spoke anymore beyond polite small talk at holidays. She tried the big sister angle, telling me mom was really struggling and I should step up and help. I asked if she was helping. She got defensive, explaining she was barely getting by herself after the divorce and couldn't spare anything. I pointed out that I was still paying off over $35,000 in student loans because of choices that were made to benefit her. She went quiet for a moment, then tried to pivot to, "That was so long ago," and "You need to move past that." I told her I had moved past it, moved past expecting anything from this family besides demands and guilt trips. Then I said I had to go and ended the call. The 4th month, my mom tried a different strategy. She called and didn't mention money at all. Just wanted to chat, see how I was doing, catch up on my life. It was so obviously a setup that I almost felt bad for her. We talked for about 15 minutes about nothing important. She asked about work, I gave vague updates. She told me about some neighbors and what they were up to. Then right at the end, she casually mentioned she'd love to take me to lunch sometime soon to really catch up. I told her I'd check my schedule and get back to her. Never did. She called back a week later asking about that lunch. I said I'd been swamped with work, totally forgot to check my calendar. She suggested a few dates. I said I'd have to confirm with my schedule and let her know. 2 weeks went by. She called again. I apologized for being so busy, promised I'd find time soon. We went around like this for another month before she gave up on the lunch angle. Month 5, she sent me a long email. This one was different from the voicemails and calls. It was thought out, carefully worded, trying to make a logical case for why I should help. She outlined their financial situation in detail, showed me the numbers on their income versus expenses, explained the gap they were trying to fill. She talked about how they'd always planned to have some inheritance to leave for me and Ashley, but this setback had eliminated that possibility. The inheritance argument was particularly interesting to me. For years, I'd never heard a word about any inheritance. But now that she needed money from me, suddenly there was this nebulous future money I should care about protecting. Never mind that any inheritance was theoretical and decades away. Never mind that I'd learned a long time ago not to expect anything from them anyway. The email was actually pretty well written. She'd clearly spent time on it, maybe even had someone help her write it. It had bullet points and financial breakdowns and all these reasonable-sounding arguments. Reading it, I could almost see how someone else might be convinced. But I wasn't someone else. I was someone who remembered exactly what happened to my college fund. I didn't respond to the email. Not even a, "got it, we'll think about it." Just complete silence. After a few days, she sent a follow-up asking if I'd received the email. I sent back, "Yep, got it," and nothing else. She asked if I had any questions about what she'd sent. I said, "Not right now, still processing," then went radio silent again. Month 6, which brings us to about now, she tried bringing Ashley into it more directly. They both called me on three-way, some coordinated intervention attempt. Ashley opened with how worried she was about mom and dad. Mom jumped in with how she just needed to know if I could help or not, that the uncertainty was worse than a no. I told them I'd already said I needed to think about it and check my finances. Ashley pushed, asking how much longer I needed to think about it. I said as long as necessary, that this wasn't a decision to make lightly. Mom asked if I could at least give them a timeline for when I'd have an answer. "I'll get back to you when I get back to you," I said. "I'm not going to be pressured into making a financial decision before I'm ready." They tried a few more angles on that call. Guilt, logic, emotional appeals, the works. I stayed polite but firm. No promises, no commitments, no timeline. Just, "I'll think about it and let you know." The call ended with both of them clearly frustrated. I went back to watching TV. Here's the thing. I'm not struggling financially anymore. I'm doing fine. I make good money. My loans are down to a manageable amount. I'm building a solid career. I could probably help them without destroying my budget. But every time I think about it, I remember sitting in that living room at 18 years old, being told that my college fund was going to pay for centerpieces and a chocolate fountain. I remember my mom crying about how I was being selfish for not wanting to give up my education fund for Ashley's party. I remember working 3 jobs while taking full course loads. I remember every ramen dinner, every time I couldn't do something with friends because I had to work, every exhausting semester where I wondered if I'd make it. I remember Ashley's face when she said, "You'll make more money, it's just one wedding." And I remember that not once, not a single time in the years I was struggling, did my mom call to offer help. Not once did she check if I needed money for books, or if I was eating properly, or if I was okay. The only calls I got were to tell me about Ashley's latest purchase, or vacation, or home improvement project. So now when my mom calls, I do check my phone. I see her name pop up and I think, oh yeah, I should call her back. But then I remember I have laundry to do or work emails to catch up on or literally anything else. And I just keep forgetting to call her back. It's the most passive form of revenge, really. I'm not yelling or making scenes. I'm not refusing to help outright or having dramatic confrontations. I'm just consistently forgetting that she needs something from me. The same way she forgot I needed help when I was working myself to exhaustion. The same way she forgot my college fund was mine when she wanted to throw an expensive party. The same way she forgot I existed unless she needed something. My memory has just gotten really unreliable lately. Weird how that happens. Weird. Last week she left another voicemail, her voice shaking, saying she didn't understand why I was doing this to her, why I was being so cruel. She said she never raised me to be this kind of person, someone who would abandon his family when they needed him. I saved that voicemail too, put it in a folder with all the others. Sometimes I think about calling her back, having the direct conversation where I lay out exactly why I'm not helping, pointing out every parallel between her situation now and mine 10 years ago, making her understand, really understand, what she did and why this is the natural consequence. But then I realized that would give her the confrontation she wants. It would open the door to more manipulation, more guilt trips, more opportunities for her to twist the situation into me being the bad guy. She'd make it about my grudge instead of her choices. So instead, I just keep forgetting to call her back. She's stressed about money and feels abandoned by family? That's rough. I remember feeling that way too, once upon a time, when I was 18 and watching my entire college fund get spent on flowers and party favors, while my mother told me I was selfish for being upset about it. Ashley called me yesterday, angry this time instead of playing the concerned sister angle. She said I was being childish and petty, that holding onto this grudge for so long was pathetic. She said mom was literally losing sleep over their financial situation, and I was just making it worse by ignoring her. I asked Ashley if she still had any of the money from her college fund that didn't get used, or if she'd spent it all on her lifestyle before the divorce. She said that was beside the point. I said it actually was exactly the point. And then I ended the call. My mom texted me this morning. Please call me. We really need to talk about this. I'm your mother. I read the text. I thought I should respond to that. Then I got distracted by work and completely forgot about it. Just like I keep forgetting every other time she reaches out.